Hello, BookTube. I'm back with another video of science fiction eye candy or uh, vintage paperbacks. Now, I'm sticking to mostly 60s. Uh, a few 50s will crop in, so 50s and 60s for the most part. There might be a few from like 70 or 71 that are very reminiscent of 60s style. But I'll separate the 70s and do those separately. And what's prompted me to do this is I have to move all my science fiction paperbacks, which are piled up, and I've been moving them at various places since I moved in here, and they're still not going to have a permanent home. But was finding that as I'm moving them, there's damage that's happening, scraping and so forth. So I've been putting them in, starting to put them in these plastic bags. There's one thing that I want to mention, if anybody is going to do this, and especially for the first time, is because if you tape down the flap, and if you ever want to open it, make sure you use a tape that is removable. Like, Scotch, they call it magic tape here, and I think that's pretty well everywhere. Works well. But the one thing, as I want to say, is when you don't just take the tape off and leave it hanging. For instance, like this. Don't leave the tape like that, and then try to take the book out. It doesn't matter. I guarantee it. It doesn't matter how careful you are. At some point, when you take that book out, one of the pieces of tape will stick to the cover. And it probably will not come off easily. It'll take a layer of the book off. So, at your peril, try it. But I can guarantee it doesn't matter how careful you are. And once you do that once, you'll never do it again. But, if you can avoid doing it even once, that's even better. Anyway, let's get to the books here. So I'm going to take them out of the bags and put them back in as I go. Now, we've got Boudry's Inferno by Algis Budrys. I think that's the pronunciation. He wrote a lot of stuff, but he was also a fantastic reviewer in a lot of magazines. Now, this is a collection of his short stories. It's got an introduction. It's got Silent Brother, Between the Dark and the Daylight, and Then She Found Him, The Skirmisher, The Man Who Tasted Ashes, Lower Than Angels, Contact Between Equals, Dream of Victory, and The Peasant Girl. So they're short stories because the book is only like 160 pages long. Now, this is, I believe, the first printing. I don't think there was a hardcover of this. So this is a Berkeley Medallion book, and it was published in 1963, July 1963. And that is another Richard Powers cover. But I just love the colors on that. Color, I suppose. But I do really love that. And this one is in nice condition as well. It's numbered F799. I'm not too sure how the numbering works for Berkeley, but that is the number that's on it. Now we move on to, and I've got a list here of all the artists so I don't forget everything. We move on to a Poul Anderson. Again, this is one of the wonderful Pan books, and that's just absolutely wonderful. Pan did do at times some wonderful covers, and then they seemed to change for a little while to sort of really abstract photograph, blurred photography at times, and didn't quite work. So this is Poul Anderson. As I say, it's Pan Books, and it says it's unabridged, and this was first published in 1961 by Victor Gollancz, and this edition published 1964 by Pan Books, and it's I believe it's a short story collection as well. Can't remember. Well, there's here the Time Patrol, Brave to be a King, The Only Game in Town, and Delinda Est. And the cover artist for this is W.F. Phillips. Not somebody that I'm fully aware of. I don't know anything else by him, but I do love this for sure. It's just absolutely wonderful. And this one is in good shape as well. The spine is unbroken and it's very readable. In no fear of, with a little care, no fear of cracking the spine. Here's one that is an anthology, and this is called Contact. Man Faces Extraterrestrial Life in Contact. And it's edited by Noel Keyes, who was a pseudonym of David Noel Knightley. And according to L.W. Curry, who was or is a bookseller which started in the late 60s, I think, and also a bibliographer with a lot of other major bibliographers, says that Sam Moskowitz collaborated on this, but anonymously he collaborated and chose some of the stories. And the cover artist for this one is John Schoner. I'm not sure the pronunciation, but this is a paperback library book, 50 cents on the cover. Sadly, there's some bad creasing there. And again, I'm not sure whether that happened while, being moving and everything, but it looks like it's been there for a while. Let's see here. So paperback library, 1963 was the first printing. This is the second printing, August 1965. And there's two sections. There's Man the Discoverer, and has First Contact by Murray Leinster, which is a fabulous story. Intelligence Test by Harry Walton. If you watched my Cosmic Engineers video, I believe there's a Harry Walton story in the 1939, one of the issues where of astounding science fiction that first Cosmic Engineers showed up in. I'm not too sure of him as a writer. The Large Ant by Howard Fast. What's He Doing in There by Fritz Leiber. Chemical Plant by Ian Williamson. Limiting Factor by Clifford D. Simak. The Five Balloons by Ray Bradbury. And then the next section is the Man the Discovered. Invasions from Mars by Howard Koch. The Gentle Vultures by Isaac Asimov. Knock by Frederick Brown. Specialist by Robert Sheckley. And Last Memory by Peter Phillips. Again, that might have been a name that was in the in one of the early ones, but that's just a fabulous cover art. And this Noel Keyes, this David Noel Knightley, I don't think really did anything else. That's the only thing he edited, as far as I can tell. Now we move on to some A.E. Van Vogt. Here is a fabulous novella, Masters of Time. I have no idea who the cover artist is. Again, I looked on a few of my sources, and I could not find a name, and they didn't have a name. This was originally published in a periodical. Let's see if it says in here. I can't remember where. Probably Astounding. Copyright 1942, yeah, and 44 by Street and Smith Publications for Astounding Science Fiction. Now, this was done, it says it's the complete text of the hardcover edition. The hardcover edition had two novellas in, this one, and I'm going to show the next one, the next book here. But yeah, so it's a little novella. It's just beautiful. It's a It is. This is a McFadden book, 1967. I do like the McFadden Bartell books. I do like the way they are. They're sort of like the Ballantine books to a certain extent, but different publisher, obviously. But I do like the McFadden ones. Some of them are a little abstract for the artwork, but this one I greatly enjoy. And as I say, I just don't know who it is. But as I say, that was a novella that was published in a hardcover called Masters of Time with The Changeling. And I have the first and second printing of, yes, this is the first printing. And it's a McFadden book as well. And that's Jack Ferragasso is the artist. And again, that's the complete text from the hardcover from the Masters of Time hardcover. So they split it up into two books. And this is a McFadden book, 1967. And I had picked up, again, like just, perfect condition these are, and still readable. And I've got the second printing. It's also the same artist, Jack Ferragasso. This is the second printing. I think in some ways I like the second printing as well. Let's see here. Yeah, this is 1969. It's a McFadden Bartell Corporation. And the pages, look at the pages are still just brightly white. Just wonderful. And I really like A.E. Van Vogt. He drives me nuts at times when he does with fix-up novels, but I still thoroughly enjoy it. As I say, we'll continue here with some A.E. Van Vogt. This is probably one of his most famous books, A Voyage of the Beagle. And it's a fix-up novel, and the first part is... what's the name of it? It's got the great, the Black Destroyer is the first part of this that was adapted and added to this. And everybody knows the cover. I should have grabbed it. I do have it, of Astounding Science Fiction. That's generally, I think it's like June or July 1939, I think it is. Or is it 38? Anyway, it's the issue that most say that began the golden age of science fiction, because John W. Campbell was sort of feeling his way a little bit, and by then he had it down, and so that was it. So anyway, this is The Voyage of the Beagle, another McFadden book. Oh, I paid a huge £1 for that. It's 1963. It says the book is complete text of the hardcover edition. So McFadden book. It's not a McFadden Bartell. It's just a McFadden book at this point. And as I say, 1939. So it's either June or July 1939 that the Black Destroyer was. I can't quite remember. Sorry. That is, again, a Richard Powers cover. Abstract, but I thoroughly love Richard Powers' artwork. And that's, I think that's, when I was looking for books that I wanted to buy, and when I see a Richard Powers, I just know it's a Richard Powers, or I thought it was, and I just figured, I'm getting that one. Still continuing with A.E. Van Vogt. This is another publisher I like. They're not made that well, and they haven't lasted very well. See, there's flaking and chips off this. It's Digit Books, but it's The Weapon Maker by A.E. Van Vogt. And this was published, as I say, by Digit Books. This is actually, it was first published by Weidenfeld and Nicholson. Saying 1947, but I'm not sure if this is as old as that. I don't think it is. I never checked that to be sure. but it is early. It's like it's probably 50s for sure. Now, this is an artist that I do like, Ed Valigursky, I think is the pronunciation. And some of you eagle-eyed people may recognize this cover. It was used in an ace double for a John Brunner novel called Skynappers. And then also for a German I think it's a German translation of Marion Zimmerman Bradley book. And it was used like it was with a lot more text on it. But yeah, this is the Weapon Makers, and it's just a wonderful cover on there. Let's see here. Let's get this in the bag. As I say, I'm only going to do 10 at a time to not make the videos too long. And there's still 2 more A.E. Van Vogts. Now we got Away and Beyond. And this one's a little rougher than the others. It's got a bit of flaking along there, but the spine is pretty good. There is a light crease down the center. And this is a Berkeley Medallion book. And this was originally published in 1952. And the Berkeley edition was February 1959. And then there was in March a Canadian edition. This is the basically 5th printing of it, but it's called New Edition, August 1963. And you guessed it, that's another Richard Powers cover. It's just amazing. Or I think they're amazing. I'm sure there's people out there that don't like Richard Powers, but hey, I do. Now the last one is another Digit book, and it's the Pawns of Null A. It's part of his Null A series of books. And this is another fabulous cover. And yep, very expensive, £1. These were bought when I was able to still get to bookshops. This one says 1946. Sorry, 56. Yeah, so it's 1956. So their one could be 47. So yeah, they've lasted okay. Yeah, there's a bit of roughness on the front page edges. Let's see. The artist is Ed Emshwiller, who is very popular. And it also was used again for an ace double, Alan E. Norse's Rocket to Limbo. And I think there was a John Brunner on the other side as well. So there's still a John Brunner connection. So, but it's still a fabulous cover. So yeah, so that's the next 10, and I'll continue on every few days as I sort of go through, and they're going to be at this point all 1960s or before, because there's not that many before that I have. I'll try to keep the 70s separate. I was watching some video and somebody was saying that the vintage paperbacks are 2004 and before. And I'm going, no way. Like, I don't even call 1980s vintage to me, because they don't have the look to be vintage. And mid 70s, some maybe up into the late 70s is as far as I go to call something vintage. But I know I'm getting old. So if somebody's 18 years old, I guess 2004 is before they were born. So I suppose that could be vintage to them. But they just don't have the feel of these. Anyway, and what does anybody think of these? Do you have any of them? Have you read any of the books? I've read all these at various times in the past. And I just was picking them up as and when to reread at some point, especially the A.E. Van Vogts. I've got a lot of A.E. Van Vogt books. I was trying to get, I'm still missing some, but I still want to go through a systematic read of his material and be frustrated to no end. Thank you, BookTube.